Sahanavavatu Sahanau Bhunaktu Sahaviryam Karavavahai Tejasvinavaditamastu ma vidvishavahai. Om Shanti Shanti Shanti. Om Samasta Jana Kalyani Niratam Karunamayam Namami Chinmayam Devam Satgurum Brahma Vidvaram Satgurum Brahma Vidvaram. Om Parthaya Pratibodhitam Bhagavatam Narayanena Swayam Vyasena Gratitam Purana Muninam Madhye Mahabharatam Advaitam Ritavarshini Bhagavati Ashtadashadhyayani Amba Tvam Anusandadami Bhagavad Gite Bhavatveshini Yam Brahma Varunendra Rudra Marutaha Stunvanti Devyai Stavai Vedai Sanga Padakramo Panishadai Gayantiyam Samagaha Dhyanavasthita Tadgatena Manasa Pashyantiyam Yoginaha Yasyantam Navidutsura Suragana Devaya Tasmai Namaha Devaya Tasmai Namaha. Om Shri Ganeshaya Namaha. Om Shri Saraswatyai Namaha. Om Shri Gurubhyo Namaha. I heard a beautiful phrase recently. It says you walk on holy ground. And that is true. Every step that we take is on this holy earth, the Mother Earth. And why do we call her Mother Earth, or why do we worship her as Mother? Because just as a mother carries us for 9 months and then nourishes us, protects us, teaches us, so this Mother Earth carries us for our whole life and nourishes us, protects us. Whatever food we have, whatever grains, vegetables, everything is given by her. All the chemicals, minerals, metals, construction material, anything that we need is provided by Mother Earth. So whenever you walk anywhere, whenever we walk, we should think that we are walking on holy ground, because who is this earth? It is the Lord himself, the Supreme Lord, manifest in this form of the Mother Earth. So make it a habit. As I'm walking, I'm stepping on holy ground, because it is God himself. In fact, there is a beautiful prayer that we chant every morning where it's in Sanskrit, but I'll just summarize that. When you get up in the morning, of course, as you lie down, you chant the name of the Lord. But before you step off the bed, there is a very beautiful prayer which says, "Oh Mother, the oceans are your cover, your dress, and the mountains are your bosom, and you are Vishnu Pati, you are Mother Lakshmi, because whatever I have, whatever wealth is given by you." And it says Kshamasvame, that means forgive me for stepping on you, but I would translate it as an attitude of gratitude, that, "Oh Mother, it is because of you I have everything." So when I step on her, I am stepping on holy ground. So wherever we go, just make this a habit that I am stepping on holy ground. I am stepping on God himself, not as a insult, but as a notion of gratitude. So this is how we have to see this whole earth, this whole universe. And Bhagavan Sri Krishna shows Arjuna in the 11th chapter that everything is him. Whatever you are seeing on this, not only in this earth, in this world, in this universe, but in all other worlds, everything is that one consciousness. And he shows him the Vishwarupa, the cosmic form of the earth. And so Bhagavan shows Arjuna not only birth, but also death, because we celebrate birth. A new child is born. We celebrate the new year. We wish everybody a happy new year on the 1st of January. But every new year ends in 31st December. It doesn't last forever, and a new year starts. Every birth ends in death. So as we celebrate birth, we should also celebrate death, because they are all one. There is no difference. We should not say birth is something to be celebrated and death is something to be mourned, because everything is him. That's what Bhagavan shows, that everything is me: birth, sustenance, death. That's why Brahma, Vishnu, Mahesh. But what we do is, I and my people, death, it happens all the time. Like Arjuna was used to death because he was a warrior. He had fought so many wars. But now my people, Dronacharya and Bhishma Pitama and my cousins and people on my own side will perish. Then suddenly I and my comes, and then he's confused. Then he doesn't know what to do. I heard a very beautiful example in Gaya. Gaya is on the banks of the Gangaji. And people are there watching, and there are, as you know, in every holy place, there's food shops, right? So these people are eating pani puri, bhel puri, wiping their hands on the napkin and watching, because people come and, some people cremate on the banks of the Ganga, then they, do the, Visarjan, put the ashes in the Ganga. So they are watching, kaun aaya, who died, they're just watching. Somebody's coming, mar gaya, it's okay. Then suddenly they recognize somebody from their village, carrying the body. They say, who is this? Oh, this person I know. He was my father's friend. Then suddenly their eating stops for a moment and they start, paying homage to this person. And then again, they wipe their hand with the napkin and start eating pani puri. So the point is that I and my, when it comes in, then suddenly death becomes a problem. But in fact, it is all one. It is all a continuum: birth, sustenance, death, and then again birth. That's what again in the 2nd chapter Bhagavan says, Jatasya hi dhruvo mrityu, dhruva janma mritasya, tatra ka apariharte natvam shochitum arhasi. Whoever is born is bound to die. Whoever dies will be born again. So there is no paridevana. There is no need to be mourning. There is no need to be sad. And Arjuna sees that, sees the whole universe. And then fear turns to prostration, that, oh, this Supreme Lord is the one I'm seeing. And he just bows down. Tasmat pranamya pranidhaya kayam prasadaye tvam aham nisha medium. He says, I bow down to you. Shastang namaskar, O Lord, you have shown me this supreme form, and I'm so blessed. I'm so lucky that I was able to see. And you and I, through Arjuna, we are also able to see in the 11th chapter the supreme form of the Lord. That's why they say, when you chant these verses, do not just think of them as verses, but that the Lord is showing us his supreme form. And that is how one should listen to this, visualize that this whole universe is the form of the Lord. Only difference was that at that moment, we'll talk about this, Arjuna had the divine vision. So Arjuna not only prostrates, but then he regrets. He says, Bhagwan, I thought you were my friend, and I regret. Sakhesi matva prasabham yaduktam, he Krishna, he Yadav, he Sakheti, ajanata mahimanam tavedam, maya pramadat, pranaye navapi. He says, oh Lord, please forgive me. I just thought you were my friend, and I called you, hey Krishna, hey Yadav, a friend, not knowing that you are the Supreme Lord who has manifested on this earth. So forgive me again and again. He says, I ask Nama purastadata prishtataste. Again and again, I ask for your forgiveness. I bow down to you, Sashtang Namaskar, that I did not understand your glory. And so that is the beauty of this relationship between Bhagavan Sri Krishna and Arjuna, even though it was the Lord and a human, but how close they were. They were close friends. They were, and so you see this love between the two. It's not only the attitude of the divinity, but the beautiful relationship. And this all shows up in this 11th chapter, how Arjuna and Bhagavan used to relate to each other. So Arjuna is, to some extent, expressing his regret that I did not consider you, but the fact was he did not know at that time, and Bhagavan did not want to reveal his supreme form at that time, because he wanted a different, like even to his mother, he wanted to remain a child, so he wanted to get the love of a mother or the love of a friend, with the gopis and with all the Bal Gopal Gopas. So he came to experience all the beauties of this world. And only at certain moments he expressed his divinity. Here he did it because Arjuna asked. Arjuna asked, but then he was not able to handle this vastness. And we'll see why he was not able to. So we'll do this today in verse number 45. Lata can repeat. Adrishtapurvam rishitosmi drishtva.
Adrastapurvam rishitosmi drishtva.
Bhayena cha pravyathitam mano me.
Bhayena cha pratyathitam mano me.
Tadeva me darshaya deva rupam.
Tadeva me darshaya deva rupam.
Prasida devesha jagannivasa.
Prasida devesha jagannivasa.
You can please mute and we'll all chant together. Adrishta purvam rishitosmi drishtva. Bhayena cha pravyathitam mano me. Tadeva me darshaya deva rupam. Prasida devesha jagannivasa. So we are in verse 45 of the 11th chapter. So Arjuna is saying, Adrishta purvam, that which I have never seen before. Rishitosmi, I am delighted, because initially he was so happy to see this divine form of the God and all the garlands and the ornaments and all the fragrance, all the heavens, all the gods. So he was delighted, drishtva, having seen. But then what happened? Bhayenacha. Then he also got fear. And pravyathitam. Pravyathitam means distressed, agitated, manome. So my mind, which initially was pleased, now it is fearful and it is distressed, it is disturbed, because I'm not able to handle this vastness. And we'll talk about why he was not able to handle. So he says, Tat eva, then what do I want? Tat eva me darshaya, show me that form, deva rupam, this sweet form of Bhagavan that you had before, of Bhagavan Sri Vishnu or the Lord Krishna. I want to see that divine form. And prasida, be pleased with me, be kind to me, be compassionate to me. Why? You are Dev Esha, you are the Lord of all lords, and you are Jagat Nivasa. The whole world is sustained by you. So you are so gracious to the whole world. You are so kind and compassionate. Please be kind and compassionate with me also. After all, I'm your friend. So here he is requesting Bhagwan that I am now enough. Bahut ho gaya. I have seen enough of that cosmic form. I can't take it anymore. Please come back to your original sweet divine form that I'm used to. Why? Because you are compassionate, you are kind, you are very loving. So what happens is, Gurudev in his commentary explains it very beautifully, that in meditation, one is looking at in the meditation, what happens is that when we start meditating, we start on a form. And then from the form, you go to the formless, to the all pervading. And slowly in the meditation, the ego becomes weaker. The ego disappears. The ego slowly fades away. And then the ego gets scared. The individual gets scared. What will happen in meditation? What will happen if I don't come back? People have this fear. I go into samadhi and I'll never come back. What will happen to my wife and children? What will happen to my 401k and my bank balance? Nothing will go, everything will remain. But once you have started meditating and once you have that divine experience, then you become a better individual. A doctor will become a better doctor. A pharmacist will become a better pharmacist. An engineer will become a better engineer. A housewife will become a better housewife. A mother will become a better mother. Once you are on the spiritual path and the closer you get to God, the more universal your vision becomes, the less your ego is. Right now, our ego is very strong because I and my possessions, my things, my family, but then you see everything as his, everything is that. So this is how we grow in Vedanta. But what happens is that people suddenly get into Vedanta and where they start seeing this oneness and this hugeness and all, but they still don't have that purity and that maturity. It's not easy. And people say 14-year-olds should be taught Vedanta. They are not ready yet to see that I am nothing and that God alone is. That only happens slowly through dharma and through bhakti. So by doing my duty in the world, whatever duty I have been assigned, wherever I have been placed as mother, father, child, sister, brother, lawyer, doctor, engineer, whatever job, wherever I have been placed, do my duty well and do it with bhakti, with devotion to the Lord. As we do our duty, dedicating everything to the Lord, and the Lord is working through me, then slowly we develop vairagya. Slowly we develop detachment, where there is no I and my, everything is God's, everything. And not only everything is God's, but everything is God. Whatever I see, just as we said, when you step on the earth and the mountains, the oceans, everything is that. So slowly we develop vairagya, we develop detachment. And so Vedanta teaches us how to do what we are doing, how to study, how to mature, how to develop purity of mind. Talking about learning how to, so this lady tells her husband, I am mad at that beggar. I hate that beggar. So husband says, what happened? Well, why are you so angry with the beggar? This was in India, And, where people give food to the beggar. So she said, he came yesterday. He said, I am hungry. And I gave him some food. So husband says, very good. She says, yeah, but today he brought me today he brought me a book, how to cook. So we have to learn how to do what we are doing. And that is the path of spirituality, where through the guru and through the scriptures, we are learning how to live our life. And so gradually through study of the scriptures, when we develop the right purity and maturity, then these books of Vedanta make more sense to us. The Bhagavad Gita, the Upanishads. And that's why certain texts are not taught right away, like Mandukya Upanishad, where it says there is no world, there is no creation, is not taught to a sixth grader, or Brahma Sutras. As we mature, slowly the growth happens. Because what happens is the physical body grows in a certain way, but the subtle body also has to grow. My thinking, my mind, my intellect has to mature, and then alone this growth will happen. So it's not only a physical growth, but a mental growth that we experience through our scriptures, through the teachings of the Lord. And seeing this fearsome form of the Lord, where we saw in the last few verses how the Lord's mouth is open and there is fire coming out and all the people are going in, because that's how it is. The world, some people are being born and some people are dying. That is the cycle of life. And so this fear reminds me of Narsimha's story. A lot of you know that story, but just to repeat briefly, Prahlada was being tortured by his father. And then he used to always pray to Lord Vishnu, and Lord Vishnu appeared in the form of Narsimha, this lion, half man, and he destroyed Hiranyakashipu. But in that lion form, there was so much anger because the Lord has transformed himself into that Narsimha avatar, that Ugra Rupa, that scary form. And that was so powerful that all the gods in heaven were afraid. Even the Devtas, they couldn't handle it. They say, what is going to happen to this earth if this form doesn't withdraw? It has to withdraw to that divine root. So they say, ask Lakshmi ji, you go and talk to him. She said, look, this is not my husband. This is not the one I'm used to. I'm not going. So then they said, okay, then they asked Prahlad, can you please go, because you are the only one. And so Prahlad goes, stands in front of this fearsome, huge form of half lion, half man, and he just bows down. And immediately that form becomes serene, because that anger of that Lord is slowly dissipated, seeing his 6-year-old bhakta sitting there, bowing down to him. So that is what it is, that this form of the Lord, we sometimes ask for something, but we are not ready for it. And that's what this shloka tells us. And this will continue in the next shloka, 46.
But he was also on the war field. That's why they were
shouting. Yeah. I think that will come in the next.
Yeah.
In the 47th verse. Yeah. In the 46th verse, Kiritinam gadinam chakrahastam.
Kiritinam gadinam chakrahastam.
Ichhami tvam drashtumaham tathaiva.
Ichhami tvam drashtumaham tathaiva.
Tenaiva rupena chaturbhujena.
Tenaiva rupena chaturbhujena.
Sahasrabaho bhava vishvamurte.
Sahasrabaho bhava vishvamurte.
All together. Kiritinam gadinam chakrahastam. Ichhami tvam drashtumaham tathaiva. Tenaiva rupena chaturbhujena. Sahasrabaho bhava vishvamurte. So he says, Lord, enough. I've seen enough of that cosmic form with all the fire coming out and all the everything happening. I want to see your beautiful form as Lord Vishnu. And what is Lord Vishnu? Lord Vishnu has these following characteristics. So he says, I want to see that form. What is Kiritinam? Kiritinam means one is the crown. And Gadinam, and Bhagwan Vishnu has a Gada. Gada is the mace, which if you hit on somebody's head, they used to use in the warfare, the person will die or become unconscious. So I want to see that form of yours with the crown, with the Gada in the hand, with the Chakra Hastam, with the Sudarshan Chakra in the hand. And what is the significance of that? Gurudev has explained very well, so we'll talk about that. So Chakra Hastam, Ichhami Tvam Drashtum. Tvam, I want to see. Ichhami Drashtum, Ichhami. I wish to see. Aham Tatha Aiva. That kind of form of yours I want to see, which I am used to. Because, he knew that it is Bhagwan Vishnu who has manifested in Lord Krishna's form. So he said, that form I want to see. Ten Aiva Rupena Chaturbhujena. Sahasra Bhavo Baho Bhava Vishwamurte. O Sahasra Baho Vishwamurte. O you, that cosmic form of 1,000 hands. All the hands are yours and the entire universe is yours. I have seen that form. Now I want to see the form with 4 hands Tenaiva rupena chaturbhujena, with the four hands, please become that form. So he now feels fear. In the Bible, it is said very beautifully that fear of the Lord is the beginning of wisdom. Why do people behave? One is, of course, the fear of the Lord, but it's not that the Lord who is punishing, but the Lord has made the law of karma because of which we are punished. But what this meaning is that the Lord is within us as life, as consciousness. So every breath of mine is known to the Lord, every thought, every emotion, every action. So one has to not only be careful about my actions, but I also have to be careful about my motives, my intentions, and my emotions. How am I acting? Am I doing this act of charity, selfishly, or am I doing it with the idea of serving? That's why Bhagavan Sri Krishna in the Gita says even dhanam is of three kinds. The one is where you give to the right person at the right time without I and my. God is giving through me. Second is you do it. The rajasic dhanam is where you do it to show off, where you are, oh, I am a great charitable person. My name should be there and everybody should recognize. And the tamasic dhanam is where you give somebody, but to insult him or you mistreat him. So the point is that the Lord within knows not only our actions, but our motives. And that's what repeatedly all the Swamijis tell us, that watch your motives. Why am I doing what I am doing? And the motive is as important as the actions. So in this form of the Lord, intellectually he has understood but his heart is still filled with fear, because the intellect and the heart are not together. They are separated. My emotions are not able to handle what my mind and my intellect is telling me, what I am hearing, what I am seeing, smelling. So slowly he is realizing that he is not yet ready to see that form. And so he asks the Lord to come back to his Chaturbhujam, four hands. So Gurudev in his commentary has explained this four hands in two different ways. One, he says at the simpler level that Lord has four hands and why four hands? Our gods are shown having four hands. Why? To show that they are omnipotent, that they have more power than you and me. So these four hands have four things in them. One is a conch, which blows, the conch which you blow in the temple, the mace, the gada with which you hit somebody, the chakra, Sudarshan chakra, which can cut, and then there is a lotus. So the conch means God is always calling us, come to me, give up your attachment to the world. I am here, but we don't have time. We are too busy. Time hi nahi hai. Later on I don't have time to do puja. I don't have time to meditate 5 minutes quickly. We just do aarti and run, So he says, if you don't have time for me and you keep on going in the world, then what will happen? You will get hit with the gada. It means you will get some sorrow, some problem will come. And at least with that problem, you turn towards me. Oh God, only you can save me. But some of us, even problems come, we still don't listen. So then Bhagavan says, then I have to use the Sudarshan chakra, which will cut your ego. See, this ego of ours can only be cut by Bhagavan. And so Lord says, either I will use the gada, and if you don't listen, I will use the Sudarshan chakra to call you towards me. But the best thing is, if the moment you hear God calling, go towards him and you will get the lotus. The lotus represents peace, purity, love, kindness. So God is all the time calling us. That's what the Bhagavad Gita is. That's what Gurudev's commentary. That's what all the Mahatmas tell us, that God is always calling us. If you go towards him, you will get peace, purity, love, compassion, kindness. But if you don't, then you will suffer in the world. So the choice is yours. The other meaning, Gurudev in his commentary explains very beautifully in the symbolic way. Gurudev says that God is represented as blue. See, Ramchandra ji was also dark. Bhagwan Sri Krishna was also dark as blue. And Bhagwan Sri Krishna is called Pitambara. He's always wearing yellow clothes. So the idea is that this divine consciousness, which is dark, which is not known to us, we do not know what God looks like, where God is. So that God, out of compassion, has manifested on this earth. So the earth is yellow, brown, yellow. So this blue consciousness is wearing the clothes of this earth. So Bhagwan Sri Krishna, when he appears on this earth, he is wearing yellow, representing that the blue total that's why the sky is considered as blue, the ocean is considered as blue, because blue represents infinite. So this infinite consciousness has manifested on this earth. And what are the four hands? Four hands are our antakarana, our mind, intellect, ego, and memory. So our four inner equipments. So the Lord, when he manifests in us, we represent the earth, the mud, the inert but the Lord, when the consciousness is in us, then we use our four equipments, mind, intellect, ego, and memory, to function in this world. So Arjuna, from this total Vishwamurti, how was he able to see? Because God had given him this divine chakshu, this divine vision where he could see all that totality in God. But he now wants to see the serene, the gentle form of God that he was used to. And so he says, "Oh Lord, please come back to that form I'm used to. I don't want to see this cosmic form. I am done with it." And so he requests God, and God, in his kindness, in his grace, in his compassion, said, "You wanted to see that form." In the beginning of the 11th chapter, he says, "I wish to see that divine form. I showed it to you. Now you don't want. Okay, I will withdraw my form." So let's see Bhagwan's response. It is a very beautiful response Shri Krishna gives us in verse number 47. Shri Bhagavan Uvacha
Shri Bhagavanuvacha
Maya Prasannena Tavarjunedam
Maya Prasannena Tavarjunedam
Rupam Param Darshitam Atma Yogat
Rupam Param Darshitam Atma Yogat
Tejo Mayam Vishwamanantamadyam
Tejo Mayam Vishwamanantamadyam
Yanme Twadanyena Nadrishta Purvam.
Yanme Tvadanyena Nadrishta Purvam.
Together. Shri Bhagavan Uvacha Maya Prasannena Tavarjunedam Rupam Param Darshitam Atma Yogat Tejo Mayam Vishwamanantamadyam Yanme Twadanyena Nadrishta Purvam. So Shri Bhagavan Uvach, the Lord said, what did Bhagavan say? Maya Prasannena, by me, Prasannena, out of, because I was pleased with you, I was with my grace, because I was happy with you, because you asked in such a humble way, Tava Arjuna Idam Rupam, this Param Rupam, this supreme form of mine, has been shown by me. Here he is using the passive voice. Maya Darshitam, by me, this form of this divine cosmic form has been shown to you, Arjuna, because I was pleased with you, because you asked. And how did I show it? Atma Yoga, by my yoga. By the power of my yoga, I was able to, even though you were not ready, I was able to show you this divine form. And what is this divine form? So Bhagavan says it is Tejo Mayam. Tejo Mayam means it is brilliant. Brilliant. Vishwamananta, and it is the entire universe, all the endless, it just goes on. And it is Adyam, it is the primeval. So it is the original form that I showed you from which the whole universe has emerged, that was shown by me. And this form of mine, yat me, tvadanyena, except from you, except by you, na drishta purvam. No one else
Yes.
before has seen this, what you have seen today. So the Lord said the following things. He says, first of all, this form has been seen by you, Arjuna. So there are two meanings of this, that it has not been seen by you. Does not mean that none of the great realized masters or rishis, nobody had seen it. That's not it. One meaning is that in the battlefield, only Arjuna could see the Lord Sri Krishna's divine form. Of course, Sanjay was seeing it in the palace. None of the other thousands of soldiers could see what was going on. They just thought, why are Sri Krishna and Arjuna talking? Why is war not starting? But the other meaning Gurudev gives, that Arjuna, in the condition he was, where, as we know in the first and the beginning of the second chapter, he was disturbed, he was agitated, he was in the middle of the war, he was ready to fight. And his mental condition was not like a yogi sitting in the Himalayas meditating, whose mind is very quiet, very peaceful. His mind was full of energy, agitation. And in such an agitated mind, which is not calm or peaceful, we are not able to see the vastness, the infinite, the totality. So even though Arjuna was not ready for it, it was the Lord's yoga, his power of yoga, that he was able to show Arjuna this supreme form of the Lord. But as we said, Arjuna was not ready. And why was he not ready? Because he still had the I and mine. And for us also, as long as I have, this is mine and this is I, then I am separate from him and her. That's why they say Jeev, Jagat, and Ishvara. So there is the ego, I, this Jiva, then there is the Jagat, the world, and then there is Ishvara, the creator. So we think there are three, me, the world, and God. But in that, Vedanta tells us that there is only one consciousness expressing as all three, expressing as Ishvara, the creator, the sustainer, expressing as the world, and expressing as me. So that oneness can only be seen when I give up I and mine. As long as I say I and mine, then I become separate from you and yours, from his and hers, and all that. So gradually we have to give up this I and my and then become one with that totality. So seeing that oneness, all the saints and Mahatmas were able to see that. They were able to see God in everybody. But for you and me, we still need to grow to that level. So it was the Lord's grace because of which Arjuna was able to experience that. And the Lord says, this form of mine is brilliant. It is shining, tejomayam. It is not only full of brilliance, but it is full of energy, full of creativity. All creation comes from that. All energy comes from that. The whole world is sustained by that. And it is the primeval. It is the Adi. It is the origin. Adi has two meanings. One is etc. But here Adi means the origin, Adyam. So he says that form of mine, nobody except you have seen it. But Arjuna doesn't want that form. He wants, even though he's able to see the vastness, and it's not because of his own ability, but it was the Lord's grace. He still was, in the infancy, he still had not progressed to that level of the rishis and the Mahatmas. And the rishis and the Mahatmas in their meditation are able to see that totality. They are able to see that oneness. But you and I, we are still in that infancy. So for us, we need to grow. And Arjuna was asked, do you want to see that totality or you want to see that littleness? He said, I want to see that littleness. Because he did he could not appreciate the vastness of that. The example they give is like a child. If there is a child and you give him a beautiful gold ring, but then you give him a plastic ring in a beautiful multicolored box, which one will the child pick? The plastic, right? Because, oh, it is a colorful box, because he does not know the true value of that gold. So similarly, Arjuna did not understand the true value of that. And for us also, we are all the time given a choice. Do you want the spirituality? You want that divinity? You want to see that oneness? Say, no, 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 I don't have time now. After retirement, maybe later on, or I am too busy right now. So we pick that plastic ring instead of picking that gold ring. Bhagwan is giving us in the Bhagavad Gita that I give you myself. What more can I give you? I give myself to you. But we say, God, you just stay in that temple. You are there. Good. I'll come every morning. I'll do namaskar, and we keep him in the temple. Everybody has a small temple in their house. And we have a very nice picture or statue of Bhagwan. And we say, you just stay there. I'm too busy doing all my things. I have so much cooking to do. I have to work. I have to take care of my children. I have to read, write. I don't have time. Time hi nahi hai. I'm so busy. I don't have time for you. So it is like that child who, instead of picking gold, he picks plastic. So you and I do the same thing. Instead of picking God, we pick the world. There's a very beautiful phrase. It says, I chose the world and I used to make time for God. I picked the world and I used to make time for God. But what does a Mahatma do? He chooses God and makes time for the world. When I have extra time, I'll work in the world. Otherwise, my life is spent. So our choice is, do you want to choose the world and make time for God? Or do you want to choose God and make time for the world? World, of course, we all have to function. But what is my main goal or purpose in life? That has to be very clear. And that can only happen when I realize that God is in me, as myself. And that's what even Shri Prana ji said, that pehle aap pehchano re sadho, pehle aap pehchano, bina aap chine par brahm ko, kaun kahe main jano. He says, know yourself. You are that divinity, that you are. And once you recognize that divinity in yourself, then you will see divinity everywhere. So you cannot know that Par Brahma, that consciousness, unless you know that you are also divine. That's what the message of all the saints was, that divinity is in you and you are divine. You are not an ordinary soul just thrown on the earth. Each one of us is a manifestation of God. And once we recognize God within us, then we can recognize God everywhere. So of course, God is in the Murti, he's in the temple, he's in this world, but he's also in me as the life, as the consciousness. In fact, I am in God. God is not in me, I am in God. That's the understanding that Arjuna had. But since he was not ready, he wanted to go back to see that original form of Bhagwan Shri Krishna. And in the last verse today, Bhagwan will tell us how I cannot be God. If you want to reach me, how you cannot reach me. And then in later verses, he will tell how you can reach me. So both, how you cannot get me and how you can get me. So both are covered in this chapter. Verse number 48. Chapter 11, verse number 48. Na veda yajñādhayanayirna dānaihi.
Na veda yajñādhayanayirna dānaihi.
Na chakriyābhirna tapobhirugraihi.
Na chakriyābhirna tapobhirugraihi.
Evam rupa shakya aham nriloke.
Evam rupa shakya aham nriloke.
Drashtum tvadanyena kuru pravira.
Drashtum tvadanyena kuru pravira.
Together. Na veda yajñādhayanayirna dānaihi. न च क्रियाभिर्न तपोभिरुग्रैः एवं रूपः शक्य अहं नृलोके द्रष्टुम त्वदन्येन कुरु pravira. O Kuru Pravira, O the best among the Kurus, O Arjuna, how can you not get me? So now Veda Adhyayana, now studying the Vedas. Say what? So many places they say you should study the Vedas. He says, no, not by studying the Vedas. We'll explain why Bhagwan is saying that. Na Veda Adhyayana, na Yajna, nor by doing yajnas, doing by all these sacrifices, not by doing charity, not by doing dhanam, and not by doing rituals, nacha kriyabhir, and tapo ugraihi, not even by rigid austerities, difficult austerities. So people think these are the paths to reach God, study of the scriptures, doing the sacrifices, doing charity, doing rituals, doing tapa. So he says, and we'll talk about it, but he says, you cannot reach me, evam rupa shakya drashtum, aham nriloke, in this world of humans, nriloke, among this world of humans, this roop of mine, na drashtum shakya, is not possible, tvad anyenam, except for you, O Kuru Pravira, O Arjuna, the best among the Kurus. Nobody else, even if they do all these things, cannot reach the ultimate. So what he's saying is the highest truth cannot be done if these things are done with desire. See, I study. I study why? So I can give lectures, so I can become smart. I can be well known. I can do masters and PhD in Sanskrit. So I study all the Upanishads and chanting. Why am I doing? For desire. Or I am doing some yajna, doing sacrifices in the fire. Why? I should go to heaven and I should enjoy in heaven all the dancers and all them. So I'm doing good things, but I'm doing it with a selfish desire. Then even as we do charity, as I said, the motive is more important. Am I doing charity to show off, or am I doing because God has given me plenty and it is my duty to share, to give others, especially in this country, we have so much. So it is necessary for us to share. So then even the rituals, as I said, and all of these things, when they are done, or even tapa, you may do a lot of tapas, sit in the forest, or stand on one leg, or sit in heat and cold. Why? So I should get siddhis, I should get powers where I can walk on water, or I can tell, people's future by looking at them. So then people will appreciate me. I'll have a lot of followers. I'll become very famous, and I'll be on, Facebook, and I'll be on WhatsApp, and I'll be on YouTube, and I'll have 1 million likes and clicks. So good things can also be done with the wrong motive. So that's what they say. Not that one should not do charity, that one should not study the scriptures, or do rituals, or do fasting, or do yagnas, or do austerities, but they should all be done so that it may purify my mind, which is full of anger, greed, jealousy, rag, dvesha, all this mad, moh, maya, matsarya, all these negativities that are there. When I do charity, when I do service, when I do rituals, when I do prayers, when I study the scriptures, they should reduce my ego, my I and my. But if my ego gets increased, I know more than anybody else, or, I go to the temple every week and this guy only goes once a month, so I'm superior. So the motive behind doing these is very important. That's what Bhagwan is telling Arjuna, that doing these activities, if it will take you in the right direction, and Gurudev says, when it will give you the right knowledge, then and then alone, these activities will help. And that's why they have been praised in the Vedas. So Bhagwan is not saying that don't do them, but he says, do them with the right attitude. And then And later on, he will give one more factor, which he will say Ananya Bhakti, by unending devotion, Bhaktya tu Ananyaya Shakyaha, which will come in the later verse. So these activities should lead you to right knowledge and to love for me, bhakti. So these two are necessary. Then these activities help. But otherwise, these activities could actually become counterproductive. They say that intellectually I understand, but my mind should also be aligned, and my mind should develop love for Lord, and intellectually I should understand God. So these other activities should take me towards bhakti and jnanam, devotion and knowledge. And what it should do, that when I am doing service, it should reduce my worry. What our problem is, that worrying is one of the biggest problems that all of us have. We worry about small things, unnecessary. When God is doing everything, then why is there need to worry? You do your work as a dedication to Lord, and don't worry about the result. If I do it, the Lord will take care. Or I am in the lap of Lord, like just as you said, when you're walking on earth, you say, I'm walking on God, I'm walking on holy ground. When I'm lying down in bed and I put the blanket, I am surrounded by God. When God is with me all the time, everything is happening because of him. Why should we worry? But people worry. And then they're sitting in the United States, and two people will look at the newspaper and say, India may, these politicians are not doing a good job. So for 1 hour, they will discuss, or 2 hours, how, this country should be run and how this party is good. You are sitting here and you are worrying about India or what is happening. If you can do something about it, do it. Or same thing, we worry about problems here. Oh, there are so many problems of homelessness and crime. And if you can do something about it, do. Otherwise, just sitting and talking and worrying, you are just wasting your time. So that's what they say, that when do we worry? When we identify that this is me and mine. When I identify, then I worry. But if I don't, like I said, who died, people don't care. But when somebody from their villages, then they become worried. Same way, our children, we have raised our children, and they have now supposing gone to college, or they have their own family, and we still sit and worry. He's in college. I hope he's eating properly. I hope he's sleeping well. I hope he's not staying out late at night with his friends. You have given your best to your child, and that's what we say. Give your child the best knowledge, the best teaching. That's why Gurudev started the Bal Vihar, so that we can give the best knowledge to our children. Once you have done that, then you surrender. You say, God, you are taking care of these children. These children belong to you. They don't belong to me. They are not my children. They have been given by me, given by you to me to take care of. And I did my best. I did my best as long as they were with me. Now they have gone to college. Now they have their own family. Now you worry about them. I no longer worry. My main worry is God, how I can get closer to God. Does not mean you don't care for your children or grandchildren. When you are needed, you help. Of course, the love is always there, but the inner worry is not there, the chinta, because that is what creates all the problems in us. So I did my best, just pray to God, and ultimately change the focus of our life from children, grandchildren, family, money. More and more time should be spent in study of the scriptures, doing the rituals, doing some puja, some service. So that is what the essence of today's teaching is, that you see the oneness. God is everywhere, and then God is also here in me. And whatever I'm seeing around me is nothing but that one divinity. And when we have a choice to pick, do I pick I and me, mine, or do I pick the totality? So this constant choice is given to us. That's what even in the Kathopanishad, the teacher tells Nachiketa, Bhagwan Yama tells, he says Shreya and Preya. Preya is what I like.
Pleasing.
Shreya is what is good.
Good.
So what is pleasing and what is good for me and good for others. So that is the constant choice. And here also that Bhagwan Sri Krishna is giving us the choice. Do you want to see me as the totality, or do you want to limit yourself to I, me, and my? So beautiful verses. Thank you all for joining and participating. We have a few minutes. If anybody would like to add or any questions or comments, please feel free to do that. Yes,
Hariom
Satish.
Akilji, so I have a request. Can you say that Mother Earth Prarthana in Sanskrit?
Yeah, I have it. I haven't memorized it,
Oh, okay.
Yeah,
but I
it's-
have it. I'll read it to you. I'll do it. I'll put it on the Gita app.
That'd be awesome.
On the WhatsApp, I'll read it. Samudra Vasane Devi Parvatastana Mandale Vishnu Patni Namastubhyam Padasparsham Shamaswame. So Samudra Vasane Devi, O Mother Earth Devi, Samudra Vasane, your clothes are Samudra, are the ocean, are your clothes. Parvata Stana Mandale, and the mountains are your bosom. And Vishnu Patni, you are Mother Lakshmi, Namastubhyam, to you I prostrate, I bow down. And Pada Sparsham, Shamaswame, please forgive that I am stepping on you. But I would change that to my gratitude to you, and that I'm grateful to you for nourishing me, for taking.
Anil,
Huh.
you explained that fear, Arjun's fear very well. I also read Gurudev's description on it, and I was confused.
Right.
That Arjuna's fear was because of his Virat Swarupa, and how that relates to the meditator. When a meditator goes to that certain point, and beyond that, when he tries to get there, and that's where that fear develops of what I'm leaving behind. Is that
Yeah.
Yes.
how you would explain?
Right, right. See, Arjuna, when he saw that Virat, then his individuality was being lost, and he was not ready to surrender his individual Arjuna in the total reality, which by the end of the 18th chapter he does. He says, Karishye vachanam tava. I will do what you are saying, Bhagwan. But in 11th chapter, he's still not ready to surrender his warriorhood, that I am a great warrior. By the 18th chapter, he says, no, Lord, you are doing everything, and my moha has been removed, my delusion has been removed, and I'll do exactly what you say. After that, he doesn't question. Bhagavan says, do this, he does it. To Bhishma, do this. To Karna, do this. To Jayadratha, whatever he has to do is done by him, because Bhagavan's instructions he's following, but his ego is still strong. So what Gurudev says is that in meditation, this I and my is still strong. And when we perceive that formless, when our mind becomes still, why is the ego there? Because our mind is still very active. But as our mind becomes quieter and quieter in meditation, and this I and my reduces, then you experience that totality, that oneness. But if you are not yet ready, then you will get fearful that I will lose my individuality, and then what will happen to me? What will happen to my wife, my children, my family, my house? So that ego, which is being extinguished through meditation, it's like its last gasp. It is still fighting, and ego doesn't want to give me, myself, and I up. And until you give up this me, myself, and I, the progress in spirituality will be slow, because ultimately I have to realize that I myself do nothing. By myself, I am nothing. And that line is very, very important, that by myself, I am nothing. Everything is him. Everything is God. Everything is done by God. If I think I am doing it, then my ego is still strong. But if God is working through me, that's why Sri Krishna says, Nimitra matram bhava savyasachin. Here in the 11th chapter, he says, just be my instrument. You're saying these people are dying. They already have been killed by me. Maiye nihata purvameva. Their time has come. If you don't kill them, somebody else will. But their time on this earth is over and they are ready to go up. So if you do it, tasmat utishtva yasho labasva jitva shatrun bhungshva rajyam samriddham. He says, get up and fight this enemy, then you will get the glory. Oh, Arjuna won the war. But if you run away from the battlefield and go sit in some forest, somebody else will get the glory. But the point is that these people are already, this work is already been done. So if I think I am doing it, that is ego. But if I say God is doing it, then the ego becomes less. And that ego fights because from childhood we have been trained, you, yourself, I, looking out for number one, all those things are taught to us. It is not, it's not how you play the game, whether you win or lose, all those things are taught to us from childhood. So that ego is not only from childhood, from many lifetimes, from the time we were amoeba and we were looking for food, that ego is there and has been fed by us over millions of lifetimes. So
Right.
through spirituality, that ego has to be reduced, but the ego fights. And that's what was happening to Arjuna. And that's what happens to us in meditation.
Okay.
The
Well,
ego is
very
not
good. Very
ready.
well explained. Thank you. I was confused.
Yeah, thank you. No, it's difficult.
No,
Yeah.
Raman Maharishi ji always tells him this I, always question that I, who is that I,
Yeah.
that individuality, because it lives on names and forms. It lives on that. That is what it thrives on,
Right.
this individuality. So the more and more you go in the world, the more and more you are feeding that. So that's why they say withdraw a little bit.
Right.
Yeah.
So this I and my is fed on things, objects, I
Everything,
have and all that.
situation.
Situations, objects. So that fattens it. So slowly reduce dependence on things and objects and
Vairagya.
people and develop vairagya and depend more on God. That's what Raman Maharishi ji says. Thank you. Kusum, anything you want to add?
Expand.
No, you did such a good job. But the last paragraph of this sloka, I really loved it.
Which one?
What he says that these practices are the preparatory means. They are not the goal. It's like giving the example of cooking. He said you can cook, but it's not going to appease your hunger unless you eat it. So
Right.
cooking is just all these Vedas and rituals, and eating is really to reach the goal. So I like that last paragraph a lot.
Thank you. Yeah,
Makes
that's very good.
understanding that why we should be doing that. We have to do that. There's no question about it.
Right. Cooking has to be done, but then finally it has to become one with you. So this knowledge, which is right now is Bhagavan
Parokshya
Krishna's knowledge or Swami Chinmayananda's knowledge or Pranaji's knowledge has to become my knowledge. That is called eating. Cooking is, I get this knowledge, but then it becomes my knowledge. That is called eating. So the completeness happens when I become one with that knowledge. And that knowledge leads me and brings it into my life. And I bring it. That's why they say Shravana, Manana, Nididhyasana. Listen, contemplate upon it, and then bring it into your life. Abide in it all the time. Yes. So that's how the progress of knowledge happens. From the saint's knowledge or God's knowledge, it has to become my knowledge. I have to abide in it, live in it. Any question? Yeah, Sharad, anything?
Yeah, just thank you for the explanation of the intent behind the action. I really like that because sometimes we tend to do sattvic deeds, but for sometimes wrongful reasons or to elevate ourselves. Even in modern times, like for example, in Rotary Club, in their motto, they ask 4 questions. They say, is it the truth? Is it beneficial to all? Is it doing any harm to anybody? And is it promoting goodwill for all? So these are the questions that we must ask when we do any action. And even our Sri Pujya Gurudev says, greatest amount of love or good for the greatest amount of people for the greatest amount of time. So it's very similar.
Thank you. Very good. Yeah, giving maximum happiness to maximum people for maximum time. Yeah. So that should be and also Gurudev says in our pledge, giving more than what we receive, producing more than what we consume and giving more than what we take. Why? Because we seek the Lord's grace and blessings to work through us to the world around us. So that is the motto of Gurudev, and that's what we need to practice. Thank you for pointing that out. Om na tatra suryo bhati na chandra tarakam nema vidyuto bhanti kuto yam agnihi tameva bhantam anubhati sarvam tasya bhasa sarvamidam vibhati. Om Shri Krishna Chandra Bhagwan ki jai. Arati Shri Chinmaya Sadguru ki Devya Rupa Murati Karuna ki. Arati Sadguru ki चरणों में उनके शांति समाए. शरणागत की भ्रांति मिटाए. पाप ताप संताप हरण की. आरती श्री चिन्मय सद्गुरु की. आरती सद्गुरु की. वेद उपनिषद गीता को गाया. धर्म सनातन फिर से जगाया. शुद्ध नीति प्रीति शंकर की. आरती श्री चिन्मय सद्गुरु की. आरती सद्गुरु की. सिद्ध बाड़ी की तपोभूमि में नित्य विराजे गुरु हमारे. भक्त हृदय आनंद स्तोत्र की. आरती श्री चिन्मय सद्गुरु की. आरती सद्गुरु की. आरती सद्गुरु की. बोलिए श्री सद्गुरुनाथ महाराज की जय. Everybody take the आरती please. न वाचा मनसेन्द्रियैर्वा बुद्ध्यात्मना वा प्रकृते स्वभावात् करोमि यद्यत् सकलं परस्मै नारायणायेति समर्पयामि. नारायणायेति समर्पयामि. सर्वे भवन्तु सुखिनः. सर्वे सन्तु निरामयाः. सर्वे भद्राणि पश्यन्तु. मा कश्चित् दुःखभाग् भवेत्. ओम असतो मा सद्गमय. तमसो मा ज्योतिर्गमय. मृत्योर्मा अमृतं गमय. ओम शांति शांति शांतिः. हरिः ओम. श्री गुरुभ्यो नमः. हरिः ओम.